Warning. This episode will include discussions of high degrees of bodily horror, mentions of suicide, mental and physical health crises, and specific horror elements targeting the listener. For those reasons, viewer discretion is advised.
Vacation done. Let's get back to it. Okay, where's my script? Okay. All right. Let's begin. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Foundation, new recruit. It's been a little while. I haven't recorded one of these lessons for a couple of weeks now, but it's good to be back. For the past few weeks, I have been focused on telling you the many tales and experiences of people within the Foundation, or of those who have experienced an anomaly in person who are, unfortunately, not Foundation members. I told the stories of Max Lombardi, of the Anti-Memetics Division, of the young, now old man, and so on. But when I first started telling you these tales, I announced that I had originally planned to conclude this lesson series by getting your assistance in a problem of mine. Back then, after realizing how intense that content would be to get that assistance, I decided to axe that idea from the lesson plan. Well, over these past few weeks, I went back to it and began a filtering process that's appropriate for your level of experience. Today, this process has been completed. Now, we need to talk about the first SCP, SCP-001. This has been a long-time mystery for researchers here at the Foundation. As it stands, there are more than a dozen different SCP-001 files, each presenting a vastly different story and a wide variety of length. This may be confusing for some of you to hear. As we briefly mentioned in your previous lessons, SCPs are not numbered chronologically for a variety of reasons. There's a long process to approving something to be listed as an official SCP rather than just an anomalous item or other forms of classification that we have, with some anomalies moving faster through this approval process than others, some being near instantaneous when its degree of severity is high. Beyond this, sometimes more appropriate numbering allows for related SCPs to be more obviously related on first viewing, which is useful for a research team to know they always need to look for 73 at the end of a number, for example. This is especially true for our oldest SCPs. You might not know this, but the Foundation itself is actually relatively young, being founded somewhere between the 1800s and 1900s, though nobody besides the 05 knows the actual date. The original ordering of our first SCPs, many of them, was done by dozens of organizations that would later be folded into the Foundation, and many of these SCPs also had to be rediscovered, recategorized, or, in the case that 2 or more organizations discovered the same anomaly independently, had to be unoverlapped as we merged together. So, with this in mind, here's our goal. Quite obviously, the 001 slot has been held in great secret, with nobody beyond the 05s themselves knowing which are true, which are false, and which really deserves the number of 001. We'll go through as many of the more significant 001 files as possible over the next 3 lessons. The goal of this is to try to identify which of these are real SCPs, and this is what I need your help with. This is what you need to be taking away from your lessons now. How do we identify a real file? What is a real anomaly, a real SCP? I'll present the first one to you today. This one is often given the moniker Daybreak. It's otherwise known as SD Locke's proposal. As a bonus, near the end, I will include a couple addendums from SD Locke's proposal, one of which was also written by Locke. Let's begin. You find the access tunnel, hidden within a natural cave a mile off the main road. You don't need the keycard. The door is ajar. It smells here. It smells like them. Hopefully they've moved on. You come so far already. You can't turn back now. There is a slick trail that leads from the cave entrance and into the depths of the site. If it's blood or shit, or something that smeared off one of those things. You cannot tell. You make a point to avoid it. You're still receiving the distress signal. It only started broadcasting yesterday. Whoever it is, you pray they're still alive. Your footsteps echo throughout empty corridors. Each footfall sounds for all the world like a dozen, as if you're not treading through the darkness alone. Elevator is down, so you take the stairs, ending on floor B5, Keter holding. You pass several empty containment chambers. The horrors they once held are long gone. If you're lucky. The trail takes you to an office branching off the main hall, the source of the signal. The door is cracked open, but stuck. You plant your feet and push with all your might. Something skitters out of one of the rooms on your left and around the corner before you can get a good look at it. Your first thought is, dog. It was on the ceiling, though. You take refuge in the room, slam the door behind you. It's dark here. You're safe. You take off your jacket and head wrap. It'd be a damn shame to die from something like hyperthermia after all that's happened. The sole operating emergency light rotates in its casing, casting a pale orange glow across the room every other second, as if the room itself had a pulse. There's shelving haphazardly placed behind the door. A barricade. You scan the room, soiled clothes, half-eaten food. Despite the presence of an adjoining restroom, there is excrement in a bucket in the corner. A pneumatic chamber on the northern wall would have been delivering consumables to the occupant. The trail terminates in the corner of the room, forming a sick puddle. You spot 3 pharmacy bottles. Further inspection reveals them to be various opioids. They're all empty. There is a desk with a computer atop it. Approaching the terminal, you can clearly see the blinking light of the power button. You take a seat and turn it on.
Emergency protocol activated. Clearance level safeguards removed. Full access granted. Secure, contain, protect. Logan.
You hear footsteps just outside the door. Every first step comes down heavy. The second drags behind it.
Logan. Logan. Authenticated.
A dark shape blots out the light streaming in through the slit between the floor and the doorway.
Authenticating. Authenticating.
You tense up, waiting with bated breath, praying it will pass. You damn the deafening thumping of your heart for betraying your position.
Please wait. Please wait. Please wait.
The shadow recedes. You breathe a sigh of relief just as the screen comes to life.
Opening file. Automated secure system notification code 235. There has been an error in retrieving the current iteration of the SCP-001 file. You are currently viewing revision number 3. Newer revisions can be accessed at the bottom of this page. Access file SCP-001, revision number 3-12. 1. Audio file.
Revision 3/12, updated 1,312 days ago. Item number SCP-001. Object class Apollyon. Special containment procedures. Due to its nature, SCP-001 cannot be contained. Survivors of the SCP-001 event stationed within secure facilities are to remain in contact with one another. Personnel are encouraged to attempt to reach Site 5. Personnel are to be reminded there is no Site 5. Site 19 by any means at their disposal. Personnel with knowledge as to the whereabouts of the O5 Council are to relay this information to the Administrator. Survivors attempting to travel outdoors must fully cover their bodies in protective clothing, preferably several layers. Travel by foot should be limited as much as possible. Cities, and man-made structures in general, provide the greatest protection. Formerly wooded areas should be circumvented. travel by air is preferable above all other methods. Personnel exposed to SCP-001 are to be considered lost. Compromised personnel are to be abandoned. Euthanization is not to be attempted. Collective instances of SCP-001-A that are of formidable size are to be avoided at all cost. Conductive electrical weapons have proven partially effective at immobilizing instances and may be used for self-defense. Incendiary weapons work as well. Cryonic mutations are the most effective thus far. Testing has revealed that SCP-001-A is relatively safe to consume. This is only to be considered as a last resort in the absence of other options, as SCP-001-A may reconstitute within the digestive system. Only small portions should be consumed at a time to prevent blockage. Personnel stationed at Site-19 are to pursue research concerning off-world colonization. Shuttles must be constructed as to not allow light to penetrate the interior.
To those of you with families, or God forbid, children, I'm deeply, deeply sorry. You must push on. Do not let their deaths be in vain. We do still have time. Humanity may still have a future. Come to Site-19. We need all the hands we can get. Learn to embrace the darkness, friends. Fear the light. Signed, the Administrator.
Description: SCP-001 is the designation given to the Sun after an event on resulting in about 6.8 billion casualties within the first 24 hours. This event has been categorized as an XK-Delta class solar singularity scenario. The SCP-001 effect does not seem to result from exposure to ultraviolet rays, but rather light in the visual spectrum, ranging from about 390 to 700 nanometers. The effect is similarly present in moonlight. Upon contact with visible light produced by the sun, living organisms liquefy at the point of contact, with the effect spreading until the entire organism is converted. Visually, this is reminiscent of melting wax. The time this takes is largely dependent on the level of exposure and size of the organism. Despite this restructuring, at no point do living organisms perish. Upon completion, these organisms, now called SCP-001-A, take on a gelatinous consistency. Motile organisms will attempt to orient themselves in a fashion reminiscent of their previous form, to varying degrees of success. Flora typically remain physically inert, yet are still capable of photosynthesis and still produce oxygen. Organisms capable of flight lose the capability to do so. Fauna remain sentient and display behavior that parallels their non-anomalous counterparts when not absorbed into a collective instance. Humans retain a modicum of sapience and memory. Biological anomalies exposed to SCP-001 are affected in the same manner. It seems that exposure nullifies any previously expressed anomalous characteristics. Due to their composition, instances of SCP-001-A that make contact with one another may combine and blend at the molecular level. This does not seem to cause any pain or distress to the instances, though the resulting bulk can inhibit movement. Since the SCP-001 event, most instances have congregated into such collectives, which seem to possess no maximum volume. The resulting biomass is amorphous and chaotic. The component organisms will shift between a full to semi-liquid state. Limbs and bodies will rise periodically from within the mass for a short duration, before deteriorating and being subsumed by another life form. Collective instances will locomote by using their appendages in tandem to carry their mass. Larger instances will form a pseudopod form from their constituent life forms and drag themselves about in a manner similar to amoeba. A harsh static lashes out of the speakers when you open the file. It disturbs the stillness of the room, catches you off guard, and quickens your heart's pace. There's some handling noise as the recorder adjusts the microphone. A brief moment of silence passes, and then...
This is Dr. Logan Igata,
There's a quiver in her voice that betrays her attempts at professionalism. She pauses, takes a deep breath, and continues.
Due to Site-46's possession of several communicable infohazards, we've been cut off from the rest of the network under Blackout Protocol. As such, I'll be updating this as we come across new information. On the bright side, we are actually still receiving transmissions from a few sites. A good number of personnel have made it, it seems. Some are planning to make a break for 19. Some are trying to dash A's. Some, like us, are simply biding their time. Our site is sealed for the time being. We're not ready for the journey. At least, not yet.
She sighs.
We experienced a containment breach a few days ago. One of the higher maintenance humanoids broke loose. Son of a bitch compromised containment on half a dozen Keters and ran off. They didn't make it more than 5 feet from the tunnels before collapsing in a soup. I watched it play out on the cams. It didn't take long for them to get back up.
She stops again and mutters to herself incomprehensibly before you hear the unmistakable sound of a match strike. She exhales audibly.
Much better. Not exactly a designated smoke area, but what the hell, right?
She clears her throat.
Commander Nand suited up and went to town on them the next day, tried to drive them off. It didn't turn out very well, poor bastard, but we did learn a thing or two at least.
Pause. Exhale.
There's only a few of us left here. I'm holed up in one of the offices. Jerry and Director Phillips are somewhere in the barracks. Clyde and a few Ds locked themselves in the armory with Ari. I should really see how she's doing.
She trails off for a moment before you hear the buzz of radio chatter.
Hey, hun. How you doing down there?
A voice responds, a man with an exaggerated, mocking tone.
I'm doing just fine, Pupsykins. I want you to know I love you bunches.
Logan shoots back.
Who? Knock it off and put her on, damn it. I need to speak with her.
There's a clamor on the other end while the radio changes hand. A soft voice calls out, concerned.
Babe? What's wrong?
Logan responds.
Nothing.
Pause. Exhale.
I just wanted to check in real quick.
Ari pleads.
I'm fine, babe. Really. I can take care of myself.
A creak. Logan shifts in her seat.
No, I know that. I can't help it, though. I know coming here was never easy for you.
Pause. Exhale. Logan continues.
And with everything going on,
Ari interrupts her.
Hey! You told me you quit smoking.
There's a ruckus as Igata presumably attempts to snuff out her cigarette.
No, of course not. I mean, I did. I did stop.
Ari doesn't sound convinced.
I don't think I'm the one you need to worry about. I'm staying clean. I haven't even thought about touching nest in months. Trust me. Anyway, since you were wondering, I'm fine. The guys are just sitting around playing cards, and I'm tucked in a corner with my notebook.
You can practically hear Igata smiling as she jokes.
Sweetheart, penning a sonnet about my undying love at a time like this? I'm flattered.
Ari responds with a feigned laugh.
An elegy at the moment. I feel like if I don't love you.
Ari replies.
Love you too, babe.
A moment of silence, then a match strike followed by an audible exhale.
And that's all of us. Everyone else was either topside during the event, or they were killed in the breach. Director's orders are to stay put. Keep an eye on the cams, both in and around the facility. We've got the 001 skipped beating at our front door, and God knows what else locked in here with us. We still have electricity. We should for quite some time. And the place is stocked with enough supplies to last the site a couple of years. We're going to be fine for now.
Pause. Exhale.
Everything's going to be fine.
She waits for a beat before ending the transmission.
Access file SCP-001, revision number 5/12. Incident report appended.
Revision 512, updated 1,202 days ago. Item number SCP-001. Object class Apollyon. Special containment procedures.
No changes have been submitted. Information collapsed.
Description.
No changes have been submitted. Information collapsed. Open attached file. Incident report 001.1. Access granted.
They've just been sitting out there this entire time, calling out to us, begging for us to come outside. The noise drew in more of them. There's this one mass that I'm sure must have a few dozen people and God knows how many animals rolling around inside it. Screams and bleats and screeches and howls nonstop. Louder than all hell. The worst ones make this disgusting moaning like they're actually enjoying it. They're not going to leave so long as they know we're down here. We managed to talk one of the Ds into going out, see if he couldn't draw them away. He was surprisingly okay with the plan. All he asked for was a gun and a single round. He made it out there and one got a hold of him, tried to get his mask off. He managed to work the pistol up beneath his chin in time, got it off. I figured he was lucky. After he fell limp, though, it kept working at his suit. Pried off the hood, poured itself inside, began tearing it off of him from within. He came back, started changing, dripping out of the suit, and screaming and screaming and screaming. They won't even let us die. The director has a plan. There's an escape tunnel hidden in his office. Tram under the site will take us to a safe house. We should be able to start towards 19 from there.
Access file SCP-001, revision number 8/12. 1 attachment.
Revision 8/12, updated 1,200 days ago. Item number SCP-001. Object class Apollyon. Special containment procedures.
No changes have been submitted. Information collapsed.
Description.
No changes have been submitted. Information collapsed. Open attached file. Access granted.
You see her for the first time. Dr. Igata is seated where you are right now. She has a pained look. Her eyes are bloodshot. A large, wet, red-black blotch has formed on her breast pocket. She draws a shuddering breath, parts her lips as if to speak, and stops herself. She bows her head and cries silently. After a minute, she manages to choke out, reaches into her breast pocket and withdraws a finger. The glint of a wedding ring is visible above the severed portion. She holds it close in cupped hands and runs a thumb across the glimmering band. She sits like this for an eternity, whispering apology after apology, begging forgiveness, lost in the moment. She looks up after some time. There's a look of realization when she sees she's still recording, before she places the digit back in her pocket. She leans forward as if to turn off the camera when a radio crackles to life. It broadcasts white noise for a few seconds, and then a voice that sets you on edge.
Logan?
It's Ari. Almost. Her voice has taken on the disgusting, gurgling tone characteristic of the affected. Logan's jaw drops. What little color was left in her face drains, and it speaks out again.
Where are you? Why can't I get back inside? Are you there?
Logan rummages beneath the desk for a moment and produces a handheld radio. Her hands are shaking. The thing implores her. Its almost inhuman speech curdles your stomach.
Babe, it's all right. I'm all right. Really. It's a bright, sunny day, and you're just wasting it down there.
Logan is in tears, her finger hovering just above the call button. The Ari thing draws a deep, wet breath and speaks.
Such a beautiful, clear blue sky. Just like that day. Do you remember, babe?
Logan withdraws a cigarette with her free hand, followed by a pack of matches. Her shaking thwarts the first two attempts to light it. She swears silently. Third time's the charm, and she inhales a quarter of it in a single drag. The Ari thing continues.
It was so perfect. Everything was how I'd always dreamt it would be. You planned exquisitely. I'd never felt so in love. You even had the band play our song.
It starts singing.
Golden days in the sunshine of a happy youth.
Logan begins rocking back and forth in her chair.
Golden days in the sunshine of a happy youth.
Logan hurls the radio across the room. It smashes somewhere off camera. It's still somewhat operational, and you can still hear the thing singing. More voices join in chorus as the radio slowly loses life. A few, a dozen, then more.
Golden days, in our hearts we remember them. Above all else, days of youth and love.
They continue singing until the radio mercifully dies. Logan rushes out of her chair, and you can hear her vomiting off screen. The video films the empty seat for several minutes before she returns to end the feed. Something isn't right. A lingering, paranoid sensation washes over you. You're being watched. You defensively dart your eyes about, though they take a second to adjust to the darkness beyond the monitor. The emergency light sweeps across the room, stretching and twisting the shadows beyond recognition. That's when you spot it. There, in the corner, coming out of the puddle. Time slows to a halt. A pair of hands, coated in the lustrous black slime you followed through the facility, are on either side of the sickening pool, as if something beneath the floor is bracing itself, trying to lift itself up. Something inhuman. The head comes next, rising from the muck. Matted hair conceals its face, plastered over it by the mystery fluid. It turns in your direction. It stares at you from the corner, which once again falls into darkness. The emergency light continues its journey across the room. It washes over the puddle again, revealing nothing out of the ordinary.
Access file SCP-001, revision number 9/12, 1 attachment.
Dr. Igata appears on the monitor. She's lost weight. Her eyes are bloodshot and wide. On the table before her lay a knife, a bowl, and a stack of manila envelopes filled with yellowing pages. Atop this stack is a blood-stained parchment.
Despite the things we have to deal with here at the Foundation, I've always believed we would be able to maintain control. We would hold the darkness at bay, let mankind flourish in the light. Site-19 stopped broadcasting last month. It's been getting harder and harder to find a reason to keep going, especially without...
She grabs the knife and contemplates it for a moment.
I keep going over it, again and again in my mind. That day back in the tunnels. Everything that happened. I've gone down there a few times, if only to hear her voice again. But it's wrong. That thing on the other side of the door, it isn't her. Not anymore. It sounds like her. It knows everything she knew, but it's not her. This light, it takes your body, it steals your mind. But what about your soul?
With this, she slices into the palm of her left hand and winces. You watch her clench her fist, draining her blood into the bowl.
If this works, if I can bring back something the light couldn't reach, I'll post an update here. For now, signing off.
Access file SCP-001, revision number error.
Hide from me.
Revision 4847/ updated 985 days ago. Item number,
Hurts.
object class,
Apologize.
special containment procedures. SCP-001
Should not.
be contained. Survivors of the SCP-001 event stationed within secure facilities.
Can never truly be with one another.
Personnel are encouraged
to get over themselves and stop thinking they know better. You can't hide down there forever. Love.
Personnel exposed to SCP-001
Aren't people you can just abandon. I didn't ask for you to save me. It wasn't your choice to make.
Euthanization is
not
to be attempted. Conductive electrical weapons have
Why?
proven partially effective at immobilizing instances.
You couldn't stand seeing me better off.
Incendiary weapons
tickle.
Cryonic mutations are the most effective thus far. Personnel stationed at Site-19
Have no regrets. Neither did I. It's never too late, babe.
Description: SCP-001 is the designation given to the sun
After we finally became free, the effects are instantaneous, resulting in release from all suffering until you ripped me away. These changes seem scary, I know.
Despite this restructuring, at no point
You die. I promise.
due to their composition, instances of SCP-001-A that make contact with one another may
Combine and blend and finally exist.
This does not seem to cause any
Pain.
Since the SCP-001 event, most instances have congregated into such collectives, which seem to possess no maximum volume.
Don't be afraid.
The resulting biomass
is beautiful.
The component organisms will shift
in and over and around and through and in and out and in and out and in and out. Limbs and bodies hold, never letting go. All as one, all as one.
Before deteriorating and being subsumed by another life form. Collective instances will locomote
by just trying to get close to you again. Trying so hard. Let me in. Let me go back.
There's a video file attached. Opening it, you see that it presents the room that you're in. The feed seems to be coming from one of the security cameras up in the corner of the room. It's dark, but you can just make out Dr. Igata laying on a pile of laundry along the far wall. She's writhing in her sleep. She seems tormented, hurt. She's tossing and turning and mumbling nonsense words. The camera shakes. It lifts upwards for a moment before it focuses on her again. It starts moving closer, slowly. The speakers come to life, picking up an airy, breathy static. As the camera moves closer to the doctor, it becomes clearer, crisper. It's not merely white noise, but dozens, hundreds of voices whispering unintelligibly over each other. You lean in and press your ear almost against the speaker, trying to discern what it is that's being said. Something strange stands out amidst the discordance.
Are you paying attention? This next bit is just for you.
You're not quite sure what to make of it, though. Looking back at the monitor, the camera has come to a halt inches away from the sleeping doctor. The voices stop. There is no sound. A hand, black and oily and skeletal, reaches out for her and brushes away a lock of hair. Her eyes shoot open. She recoils in shock, and the feed cuts out.
Access file SCP-001, revision number 12/12. One attachment.
Dr. Igata appears before you on the screen, looking even worse for wear than she did previously. Her hair is thinning, with large swaths appearing absent from the middle of her head. If they weren't reflecting the soft glow of the monitor, you would have assumed she no longer had eyes, for how deep they recess into her skull. She stares ahead, unblinking.
She won't stop. She won't go away. I know I didn't. No, I didn't pick up an info hazard browsing the archives, testing myself for SCP-8673's infection. Negative. SCP-9189 is the only other one that uses print as vector. Can't be that. I still have all my fingers.
Her lips crack into a broken grin. She lets out a weak laugh and displays her trembling hands. What appears to be the mostly skeletal remains of a finger is embedded into the flesh of her left hand, in the stump that would have supported her natural ring finger. 2 wedding bands loosely encircle the digit, laying atop one another.
So, I'm not infected. I'm not crazy. I know the ritual worked. I know it's really her. It's her, and she...
Something catches her attention off screen. She cocks her head, listening.
No, I can't. You're not you. Not the same. Not you. It's not you anymore. Nope. No.
She begins rubbing her temples, repeating herself over and over again. A minute passes. She snaps her head back up and addresses the camera.
It's her, but it's not. What I brought back, still a part of one. There's no way
She brandishes a handgun.
Was planning on using this till I found some leftover meds. Don't want to risk calling attention to myself, to my body.
She opens the desk drawer and deposits the firearm. She raises her gaze and stares into the camera.
Mom, Dad, Ari, I'm sorry.
She reaches forward and ends the recording. That's horrible. Did it have to end like that? You open the drawer and pull out the gun. You absentmindedly turn it over in your hands for a moment, wondering where you'll go from here. Site 17, 64. Surely you can't be all that's left. The computer dings. Has there been an update to the file?
Access SCP-001. Current iteration. Updated 1 minute ago.
Item number.
Saffron skies raise the blazing sun. A chance encounter, awkward displays. One day, my love, we'd be as one.
Object class.
With two entwined, a set course begun. That frenetic, wild, lustrous haze. Azure skies host the radiant sun.
Special containment procedures.
Above us beaming as we run down that aisle of fervent grace. That day, my love, we became as one. With future unfolded the life we'd won, commitment and duty for the family we'd raise. Cerulean skies ferry the shimmering sun.
Description.
Buried, shackled by fate, overrun by ever-growing resent and malaise. Yesterday, my love, we were as one. Now, you lie here, the life in you gone. In the dark, outside of her rays, crimson skies bear the torch, our sun. Today, my love, will be as one.
Without your prompting, the page begins playing a video file. You freeze when the image loads. It's a live feed, looking down on you from behind, about a foot away. A skeletal, inky left hand enters the frame, approaching you at a snail's pace. It's missing its ring finger. Without a second thought, you turn and fire in a frenzy, hoping to drive off the specter. Your bullets meet an empty wall. There's nothing behind there. A second passes before you hear it, before you hear them. Sloshing, wet thuds coming down the corridor, accompanied by a chorus of screams. It slams into the door. Could there be a place to hide? It strikes a second time. What appears to be a face, part human, part something, dribbles in under the frame. Bits of flesh from God knows what oozes in through the sides and reconstitutes into fingers, eyes, feathers. A third, now pressing up against the wood, causing it to sag inwards. With a groan and a crash, the wood splinters and the door explodes open. Hands and arms stretch out of the mass, pulling you up, pressing you from one to the next, on and on down the line. They drag you past the empty containment units, upwards and through the stairwell, through the halls and towards the tunnel. You're afforded a few precious moments in the darkness, and at the end of the tunnel, there is light. His shallow breath staggered as he rifled through the crumpled documents. The terminal beside him printed a pile of papers. From the 25th to the 24th page, his eyes darted through, skimming the contents before moving to the next. Cast in darkness from the light which shone through the cracks in the walls, he sat. Even the interior of Site-19 wasn't safe from the harbinger of death. Yet, even amidst the chaos that roamed outside, there was nothing but silence. The screams which once pierced the warm air were gone. Only he was left. 13. 12. He lamented to himself. Encapsulated in a gathering of emotions, he couldn't tell what was authentic and what was self-pity. A state of confusion. He took a breath of air to calm his nerves. It didn't do much. Despite this, he flipped through the papers, like a mindless being dedicated to one command, like a robot stuck in eternal servitude, like the things roaming outside. He had to. He felt obliged to. He had to do the others justice. Everything was on him. That slight sliver of hope he was given when the others had said they found the answer kept him going. His broken mind still barely running. He could practically hear the whisper of those who gave him hope. A minute, which felt like an entire hour, passed before he reached the end. The final document. His eyes skimmed to the top of the paper, to the middle, to the end. Yet he couldn't find what he was looking for. The file was supposed to update. He looked again and again, from the top of the pile of papers to the document he was just on. But there was nothing. Where was the update? Did he grab the wrong iteration? Where are the answers? And just at this moment, the terminal next to him blinked. You have one new message. He quickly put the papers down. Moving his hands across the table to reach the mouse, he clicked on the notification. An 001 file has been updated. View the updated content? His hands hovered over the message for a few seconds before clicking the link. Description: SCP-001 is the designation given to the Sun after an event caused its early collapse by approximately 5 billion years. That's all the update was. Suddenly, his giggles pierced the silence, giggles which slowly turned into laughter, laughter which slowly descended into madness. This wasn't the outcome he expected. He slammed the desk with his fist, cracking the wood as dust flew into his eyes. He slammed the desk again and again and again until his hand bloodied. Then he stopped. His arms drooped down, his body slumped in his chair, and his head looked up. He sat in this position for the next minutes. The passing time felt like an eternity. He stood up. Slowly, he struggled as his legs started moving away from the desk. He could feel the hands of the many that counted on him, that believed in the slight sliver of hope. The terrifyingly warm hands which pulled on his legs as he approached the door. But it wasn't his fault that the world died. He walked towards the door of his once barricaded office. His hand pressed the light shining through the window, but he didn't mind. It wasn't his fault after all, so why should the lives of the others matter? They placed their lives on him, but he was also left disappointed, destroyed. Removing the planks one by one, he kept silent. Blood from his hands splattered across the room, staining the walls and floors. It looked as if those spoiled, warm hands desperately tried to grip at his back. Looking back, he saw the faces of the many who believed. Soon, he gripped the doorknob, hesitating to open the door and step into the decay of the outside world. Anybody would hesitate to step into a living hell. But the day has already broken. Who's to say he hasn't broken as well?
It is oft speculated which of the varied forms of love is most powerful. One might posit that it is the familial stroke citing the pure love and hope in the heart of a mother, or the righteous pride with which a warrior defends their nation and kin. Another may proffer that it is instead the empathetic agape, owing to the compassion of a godly soul opening their heart to the needy, or the selflessness of an activist championing a cause far greater than themselves. Still, others may suggest that it is the committal pragma on sole account of the continual process of growth and understanding that evolves over the course of a lifetime with one's partner, exuded by those when they deeply know another person so wholly and intimately. Regardless of each type's relative potency, it can be generally agreed upon that love is universally powerful. It is patient. It is dynamic. It is magical. It was with this universal sense of love that Soul basked Earth in her warmth. It was with this patience she tended to the planet, nurturing its life across eons. From the industrious archaea she watched laying the bedrock for complex life forms, to the sapient humans with their boundless innovation and creativity. Soul loved it all, no matter its form, with unrivaled intensity. Then there was the hateful. He was another of her kind, older. His domain was blessed in having not just one, but 2 satellites primed to generate the bounty of life. Unlike Soul, however, the hateful was arrogant and impulsive. None of the life forms of his oceanic Rithlos developed eyes or vision to gaze upon him, so he lashed out, boiling the fledgling ecosystem for this perceived slight. The extremophiles of the frigid Timtis, though capable of complex feats of intelligence and adoption of learned behavior, never progressed to a sufficiently high degree of intellect or reasoning to genuinely appreciate their son's gift. As such, they too were consumed by his malice. The hateful envied Soul, despised her. He looked upon the world she painstakingly cultivated with absolute scorn, furious and indignant that she should be graced with the complexity and variability of its inhabitants. He raged as its dominant species' venerations of her presence echoed throughout the cosmos, forever reverberating her praises to their brethren. The hateful then directed his anger towards Earth. He began moving with single-minded determination, emanating contempt and spewing vitriol. Soul became aware of the hateful's intentions as he began his bitter campaign, and grew concerned. Though she had known life to be resilient, shrugging off one extinction event after the other, the arrival of the hateful would be an insurmountable catastrophe. The beings she cared for would be obliterated en masse in a nuclear conflagration and die hopelessly screaming. Not even the brightest minds of her world's highest body of research, with knowledge both mystic and mundane, had a solution to the challenge imposed by the hateful. The more prevailing proposals incorporated occult rituals perfected across the millennia of humanity's existence, but for all their influence, they did not possess the power or resources to spark the large-scale reactions necessary for planet-wide protection. Saul knew what had to be done. Brimming with unbridled love, she began to change. Her radiating warmth would act as a bulwark against the destruction threatened by her sibling. Her rays and outpouring of her adoration of love would grant those basking in its glory an immunity as unbreakable as the bond she shared with them. As the hateful one ravaged and tore his way through the neighboring galaxies, Soul became bemused by his impotent rage, reveling in the thought of his arrival. Because once he descends upon Earth, he will discover its population can not only endure his onslaught, but prosper in spite of it. After all, love conquers hate.
And as we conclude today's episode, I would like to give a quick shout out to those in real life that helped with the development of this episode. In particular, I would like to first thank Kevin MacLeod, who produced the music that you found in the background of this episode. You can find the background tracks that I used and more at incomptech.com, all under the Creative Commons with Attribution 4 license. I would also like to thank the previously mentioned SCP authors, including SD Locke, who wrote the 001 file and Heart and Soul, and Chiifu, who wrote Umbra. Their stories and the SCP content overall can be found on the SCP Wiki, licensed under the Creative Commons with Attribution Share-alike 3.0 license. And finally, I would also like to thank the voice actors you heard in this episode, which would be Esme, who played the role of Dr. Logan, Kit, who played the role of Ari, and Vi, who read the story Heart and Soul.